recording.
Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday, October 12th, 2023 Timoth Planning Commission regularly scheduled meeting. I'll start the meeting with a call to order and welcome everyone. Hi, everyone. How you doing? Yay. Next order of business is to review the agenda. Any additions or deletions? We're good. All right, moving on to the approval of the minutes of the 2023 meeting.
I move we approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's ask for discussion, just
Oh.
by the way. In case anybody wants to discuss anything after the motion is made.
All right. Well, no one wanted to discuss, so.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so now we're on to continuing to review Ed's draft edits to the town plan. And where did you guys leave off?
We left off at the end of chapter 4, when these things are not numbered. So you'll have to thumb through it until you get to chapter 5. It's like halfway down this page. It's towards the
Before we
end.
move on, I'd like to back up a page before we move on.
Okay,
The top-
Wait, Pat, wait till everybody gets to where they need to be.
Okay,
We're still looking for chapter 5.
If you're into page numbers, chapter 5 begins on page 45.
Get there.
45. I don't have it.
Well, they're not numbered, but it's
No.
halfway down. It says
I got it.
chapter 5, yeah. Yes, Jimmy.
Stop
I
it.
used to read the
Yeah, where's
magazines
more?
page by page.
Looks
Stop.
like that.
There,
There
see
you go.
chapter 5. So Pat, what did you want to go back to?
Well, let's make sure everybody's fine.
before, the page before, just above the energy use analysis, it's the first paragraph on that page. I think there's some math issues there. It says 255 commuter to work, of whom 214 drove and 31 carpooled. I don't think that math is good.
Which,
Right, and we
where do we
questioned that
find this
last
map?
time.
The
No,
top of the,
it's the math, MATH.
correct,
It's on the page, 2 pages before chapter 5 begins. At the top of the page, the second paragraph, or the second sentence. It
right.
says in 2015. It's yellow on my version.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you've got a numbered page, Bob, it would be 43.
I mean, I suppose if it's 31 cars, math might work, but it could be clearer if that is the case.
Right, I have question marks there, so
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to.
I think
verify
that should be 41 instead of 31.
Well, hopefully they'll give us updated numbers anyway with the 2020 census.
Right,
I have the original here too. I can look at it.
Where are you seeing that now? Okay, I guess I'm on the right page. then.
Yep.
Okay.
Was there a question about carpooling in the 2020 census?
I don't know, I only figured out the bare minimum or filled out the bare minimum.
Because I mean, like, where would they get this number of people who carpooled other than they asked everyone who drove, you know?
Or it's based on a percentage of other towns, I don't know.
But I mean, that, you know, that could be entirely, you know, it could
Could
be
be,
any,
yeah.
it could be any number.
Yep,
The only thing, if they had figures on where people put down their employment and their residence, that would tell you how many would have had a commute at that time.
Yeah,
Because in 2015, we didn't have that much online work, working from home. They would have, you know, how many of those people were teachers, school teachers that perhaps, that's usually they come into town, not leave.
yeah.
so we'll question that data and where it came from.
14 Joel, 130. Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds like it's more based on an average. When I used to commute into the city, you'd see every car on a BQE had one person in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we don't really carpool around here.
Right.
I mean, we just don't.
No,
I mean,
many options, actually.
Some of us don't drive
That's
to work
good.
either, so
what?
some of us don't drive to work either.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's just a figure based on a percentage
Yeah.
of the, you know.
No, and if it's not something that we like, we can, think about striking it out. Does that work, Pat?
Sure, it's just that, 255 minus 214 is not 31.
Correct,
That's all.
right? And we know that we have to fix it from the last meeting. We decided that.
Okay, that's all.
And we're gonna try to find out
Well,
where the.
maybe there were
information came
people who
from.
were delusional, and didn't know if they actually caught things or went to work.
All right.
Okay, so. Mr. Chair, chapter 5.
Chapter 5, making decisions about our future.
And so what we did last time, Michael, was we went through the page, and if anybody had comments.
Like
fine,
we,
if not, we flip
Yeah.
to the next page.
Under
we had been
Chinmouth
doing.
Center. I'm sorry,
go.
under Chinmouth Center. The last sentence in that first paragraph. Low density grouping of buildings without any water, sewer, or sidewalks, the village. There's no water or sewer?
No,
No, it's all
There's a
Septic
public
tanks
water
and-
system, but it
and wells.
only it only covers the firehouse, the town office, and the school.
Okay,
You wanna add without any public water, sewer or sidewalks? Would that clear it up?
I think that would clear it up.
That makes sense.
Where it says see map, page 21, 71. Ed's version has eliminated a lot and no longer has a page 71, but we can get to that when we discuss what he's left out. His document is 69 pages long. Our existing document is 92 pages long.
Right, that's when we added the 30 pages for the enhanced energy.
Enhanced energy.
Under Chinmouth Center. The first paragraph, do we want to add the pizza oven?
We added that someplace else.
That's what I was
Okay.
gonna say.
But probably wouldn't hurt there if we.
didn't we already
It's a
Under-
big oven. I know we mostly make pizza in it, but.
didn't we do the last bullet? I mean, we applied for the village grant designation and we got that.
Yeah, right,
Kind of just remove that.
right.
So where
Well, you
are
can- Still want to support it, but we've already applied for it. And
Yeah, I mean, well, we applied and we supported it, so we can, we now have a village center designation, so,
So that's an action that we did need.
yeah.
You just delete that first bullet, a third bullet, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And thanks to Bob for doing that.
Well. It had help. Are we staying on that same page or are we moving on?
I was gonna move on. Is everyone good with that?
Yep.
Now we're on to rural residential district policies.
Mhm.
Does, does any of this change with state zoning changes, the things with Act 174? Does any of that affect what we have here, where it says density of development? We never really got any answers on what changed in that act that affected,
I think that was mostly energy stuff, that 174,
it's mostly energy.
my understanding, but I could be
Okay.
wrong.
I'm gonna move on to the next page.
All right, where's this picture?
Have you moved on?
Yes, and I'm asking, where is the picture? Anybody tell me where that picture is?
Where's the place in town?
Yeah, where in town is that picture?
There
That's
seems to
not
be
the
a road. Is there a road just beyond the tractor?
Sorry, what, Bob?
I'm looking at the picture and beyond the tractor, on the other side of the tractor, there seems to be
That
something.
picture, that's Dunn's Field. The picture on the page before.
Yeah, no, we're looking, yeah.
I know. We're on the next page. Wow.
We're on the protection district, protection district analysis and the agricultural overlay
Yeah, I know,
district.
but Bob was looking at this one. That's Dunn's Field. I was looking at this one.
Yeah, we're looking at the other one.
Looks like there's a road.
And we can
there.
go back and call it Dunn's Field because Burke's has it up for sale. We don't have to call it Burke's anymore.
I've always called it Dunn's. This isn't,
It's on the one on the next page, Bob, after the one with the tractor.
Looks like maybe West Timoth.
Yeah, I was
140,
wondering that if it was West Timoth.
140 runs down. There's fields on both sides of the road, but
Yeah, I don't think that's 133.
33.
133.
It's interesting.
I don't know.
Hmm,
Right.
I'll ask Carly.
Wow.
Carly or Mo might know.
I was gonna say,
It's not ringing a bell with me with the location of the trees and.
No, yeah.
We
if it's
could
an
look-
area most of us don't get to, West Timoth sounds like a good bet.
Well,
we
I
could
was
look
just
at an
over
aerial
there.
photograph of the town and find it probably.
So I'm gonna move on to Ridgeline Protection Overlay District. If there's no objection or comment.
it isn't up on the golf road, is it?
The road, I don't know, it's hard to tell because you have a road that looks pretty
I
well
don't think it's
defined,
road, so.
but it might be up in the Gulf Road, maybe where Lewis's farm is in that area.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get up and golf much.
No, I don't think it looks like the Lewis's farm.
Oh, you know where it might be is like above David Birdsall's house looking back towards Burke's.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 130,
That is,
140, you mean?
You're coming up from Ed Baker's, that's the turn, that would be the turn and you go around and
Yep.
Burke's is on the right there in the picture.
Yep, I bet that is it.
I think it can be.
Cause there is a field out back.
There's buildings, looks like in the very top.
That's where I was getting confused is by the barns.
Yeah, I'm looking for the big red barn.
Yeah,
But I mean, the buildings are so small.
Yeah, I think that's looking at Burke's from. Well, you would think it would be the north, but it's actually not.
No.
because-
The original pictures around anywhere where they were printed from? You can, if you have a digital copy of it, you can enlarge it and
Right,
get a better idea.
well, I think Mo would know, if this is from Northrop's Road, he'll know. Because this little hump here looks like, Mo used to call that willow something or other, it's a knob, Willow's knob.
Yep.
Right across from Burke's barn.
Yep.
I think that's what that is, it's just looking in a different direction.
I don't recognize it.
All right. What page are we on?
So I was just going through where and how development is encouraged.
49.
I didn't find anything objectionable.
So now you're on the picture with the snow,
Yes, I'm
Picture
on
of
to
the snow.
open forest, open field edge policies
is at the top of the page.
is at the top of the page. Areas of sensitive development.
Up top of,
Interesting, the picture.
You
In
go,
Ed's
Colin.
version is much smaller than the version in our plan.
I knew where it was, I couldn't think of the name of it.
I think you're right there.
You're writing in where it is, so we know.
I
Yep.
am.
I don't know where that is.
Moving on to the next page, high water table, shore and stream banks.
Control is spelled wrong down there in the bottom.
Mm-hmm. So I was stuck on whether state should be capitalized or not. That might be more of my day job.
It probably should be. Because that's what mean it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm now on to shore and stream bank policies. On to wetlands, wetland policies.
Under floodways and floodplains, the first sentence. Should government be governments? You got state and federal. Governments,
This on the previous page or the new page?
on the wetlands page,
Yeah,
down under floodways and floodplains.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it should be plural. We're talking about two different ones.
Under,
Governments, yes, you need an S there. State and federal governments.
under woodland policy, maintain large forest blocks. The forested is a different font.
Yes, I got that. It's, I'll cut it out and then I'll type it back in and it should behave.
I had to make, look at it closer, make sure it was actually forested.
Yeah,
Moving on to the next page. FEMA. Flood, history of flooding in Tinder.
Mhm. Okay.
so if you indulge me just a minute on the page before there where it says flood resilience. I think that's one of the things that Ed said we needed to revisit.
It's interesting. I'm looking, as we're going along, I'm looking at our existing plan and Ed's plan. Are you
So-
looking at the page with flood resilience on it? Or are you looking at the next page?
I'm looking at the flood resilience because Ed made it yellow. And when he dropped these off, he said that we needed to revisit that section. And I
The
wasn't
flood-
quite sure what he had in mind about it.
The flood resilience section?
Yes,
Okay. It goes over to the next page, right?
it does.
And the next page in the existing plan has a map.
Yep,
In his plan, it has this box about forest protection. No map.
on my, the page, mine says Plymouth, Vermont, river corridors and flood hazard districts. The box is on the page after that. I have a map on. On the page where flood resilience starts, at the bottom, there's a box there with river corridor, buffer setback. Special flood hazard area. When you turn the page, there's another box. It's got river corridors and flood hazard districts. And then on the next page is a box of existing structures in the map flood hazard areas.
In the existing structures box, the fourth item down, educational. And then this district also typically has instead of have.
I'm lost. Where are you again?
I'm sorry, under current conditions,
What's at the top of the page?
current conditions.
Condition. Well, I printed out this thing that Ed said. And after the flood resilience page with a little map at the bottom. I guess it skips a page that he put in somewhere. Certainly skips a page that's in our existing plan. 54, 53, 54, and our existing plan. There's something about the history of flooding in Vermont and a map. You have anything like that?
I have that. I'm looking at the history of flooding in Tinmouth.
In Timoth,
And-
yeah,
Then we have Tinmouth River corridors and flood hazard districts. There's that map.
yeah. It doesn't appear in my copy of Ed's thing. The map.
It doesn't.
Well, it must be your printer, Bob, because it's in the version of what I just sent you.
Well, this is the version that you sent a month ago or whenever it was.
I sent it again tonight at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, well, I didn't reopen it because I assumed it was the same.
Right, and I just looked at it, at the attachment that I sent to you, and what's in our paper copy is in what's that electronic copy. It might be that your printer skipped a page or something when you printed it out.
It could be. It skipped if it skipped to a page, if it skipped something, it skipped to a page with conflicting activities in it.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like it skipped 2
So
pages.
it would be,
Mhm.
did you print it out front to back, or did you print it out individually? The pages,
I don't know how the printed it. But I'm looking at our existing plan, right, which I also printed out. And after the page with the flood resilience on it. If I turn that page, that's page 53 in our existing plan. I turn to page 54. And it has the river corridors and flood hazard districts map.
Yeah, so does this one.
what we have has that too.
Okay. So something in my printing of the Ed's thing skipped something somewhere.
I think so.
Okay,
I got the original one here.
I got a question for you. On the paragraph flood resilience, to meet the new state requirement for identifying flood hazard and rural erosion areas and designating areas to be protected, maps are an essential aid, period. Does that make sense?
this is down next to the map.
Under flood resilience, that first paragraph, second paragraph. We're going back page.
Meet the new state.
Flood
requirement.
events are about 4 months.
It just seems like an odd sentence. Maps are an essential aid.
They are.
I know, but it just doesn't, it's more like maps are an essential aid to meet the new state requirement for
Yeah.
identifying flood hazard.
There's more than a couple of sentences I would have swapped.
I was just
Right.
reading it and it
So-
seems awkward.
Right, so if that happens, you need to, this
Mhm.
is supposed to be in our
Yep.
voice. So if our voice wants to do that, that's what we need to look it around.
Do we want to flip it around and say, and start the sentence, maps are an essential aid to meet the new state requirement of identifying? And maybe we should eliminate the word new to
Mm-hmm.
meet the state requirement because it's no longer new.
Well, there is a effort out there to get planning commissions to look at flood resilience and river corridors. There's a entity, when we were doing the Nashville flood insurance things, the presentation to the select board included information about this, and they're willing to come and talk to the planning commission about how you determine river corridors and flood resilience, so. If Ed says we're supposed to take a visit at that, maybe it would benefit us to have that guy come and talk for, you know. I couldn't really chat with anybody like it.
Not down there.
Yeah, I didn't know if you highlighted it just because he knows there's a new map coming or something else had changed or.
But they are trying to get, and the carrot is, they will give you more state aid. If there's a FEMA event, a disaster, right now the feds pay 75% and the state pays 12.5%. But if you do more of this, then the state will pay more.
Yeah, but I
If you
believe
do
you
the
have to
flood
meet
resilience.
a certain threshold dollar value, at least that's what my other job is. Been dealing with.
Well, the select board just got hmm, a spreadsheet that showed what towns are getting which benefits.
Mhm.
Like Killington doesn't have flood insurance, so, you know, they have to pay a bigger share of the FEMA if there is an event. There's a couple of towns that don't have flood insurance now because we do, we qualify for more help from the state. And the carrot is, if you work on river corridors, state will pay more of the FEMA expenses. Not saying what the thresholds are or any of that, it's just,
Yeah.
if you have a FEMA event and they're gonna pay, this is what they'll pay, a percentage of the,
Get a higher
Expenditures.
percentage.
yeah, the state will pay higher if we've done all these little, checked all these boxes. One was national flood insurance and the next one is, and of the 27 towns, I think, in the county, there was only 2 that had flood resilience stuff yet, and they were getting the extra benefit from that. So some towns are working on it, some are not, and doesn't mean we have to adopt them, but if the guy comes and explains it and, you know, you don't have to worry about it because we have the channel and the channel just, excuse me, sucks up all the water when the storms come, then, you know, we might not have to do anything to address it, but
Well, we already have that in writing in the history of flooding in Tinmouth. I mean, that describes, you know, what happens with an event in Tinmouth when it comes to mass flooding is it goes into the channel and then it goes out of town.
right, I'm just saying,
Not a bad
if
idea.
you wanna fill in one of your nights with something, you could learn about river corridors and flood resistance and see if there's anything that the town needs to plan for it, and if you determine it doesn't need it, then it's fine, you checked off that box.
Well, what river corridors do we have?
The channel. That's the river.
Well,
corridor.
there's the Pulteney Rivers, runs from the
No, no,
Gulf all the way down through, down past McNamara's and down into Wallingford, or to Pulteney,
Pulteney.
Middletown. The channel, which on some maps is called the Clarendon River, and
Right.
it starts up above Timoth Pond, and the Clarendon River runs through Timoth Pond, but you know, that's between me, and I gotta find the right mapper to fix that. And then there's a little bit of a watershed that goes from this way down to the Meadowweed. So those would be, and that would be a question you could ask, what river corridors do we need to address? And, you know, what can we do other than what we're doing already?
But does all this
I've never-
suggest, does what you saying suggest some changes should be made in this text?
Not in this text, until you listen to the guy that'll come and talk to you about river corridors and
sure.
flood resilience. There's a guy, I can't remember his name right now. He'll speak for 20 minutes.
What does everyone feel? Do we want to hear someone talk about riparian buffers and river corridors?
I don't know, has there ever been any kind of, you know, obvious erosion from Timoth going down into other towns? I mean, even
Well,
with Irene,
There was a big storm in 2017 that wiped out a big section in West Tinmouth that we spent thousands of dollars fixing.
No, that was also because the homeowner put in culverts that were too small.
No,
That-
the homeowner had nothing to do with what came down off the river, came down off the mountain.
Right, but they got plugged up and then they ran over them. I mean, that was the Tom Peters when he put those he had those little culverts in.
That was up on that end of the road. The bottom end of the road got wiped out as well. And culverts in the middle.
Yeah, but that was a result of the homeowner because the town gave up the right of way to maintaining those culverts.
That wasn't the only place that was damaged. But I'm just saying, can I call this guy and have him come and talk to you at one of your meetings? Do you want?
Well, that's what
information?
I asked everyone if they wanted to do that.
Well, I'm asking it louder,
Well,
because I want a decision so we can move on.
no one has said yay or nay.
Larry said
Yay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeas.
Tim says yes.
Okay, there's two yeses.
Might as well. I
There's
think,
three.
I'm curious anyway. I think out of curiosity, it's something we should listen to.
I'm more curious on the flash flooding part, cause I'm not too worried about our streams, but seeing some of the other damage around the state from more flash flood type events, you know, where you have a localized storm and it just blows out the mountainside.
Well, that's what happened on the south end of town there in 2017. It didn't affect this end, but it did that end in Wells and. Okay, I will arrange that.
Okay. Thank you.
Not muted.
Sorry, I got a little testy.
You're welcome.
Well, you're,
We're moving on, right?
Yes.
Current conditions,
The fourth bullet down on that, educational, should that have a colon or something between educational and this district? And typically has instead of have.
I gotta find where you are, Pat.
current
Okay.
conditions.
Right.
Does it even make sense to have that there?
What is educational?
I don't know.
Schools. Maybe it should be
Can somebody
school
help
and
me?
schools or school
Page
building.
55.
Yeah, that,
I'm a
that's
pager
all.
everywhere.
Yeah, I was wondering what educational.
Cause I'm almost wondering if this district also typically has shallow depths of bedrock is a sentence from somewhere else?
That is from someplace else. That's,
Okay,
Ah, okay.
should we cross it off?
yes. Because shallow depths of bedrock typically is not where it's gonna flood, it's up on the mountainside, that's why it is.
so. The E911 includes something called educational?
All right, but we don't have an educational
On
district.
that map, on the little box, it says existing structures in the flooded map hazard areas. There's 11 listed, 4 camps, 2 mobile homes, and 5 single-family houses. So there's a total of 11. There's a
The
lot of
school
them
is
that
not
have none.
mentioned,
Pardon?
the school is not mentioned? Oh, it
One of the
says-
boxes there says that the boxes go camp, bungalow, church, commercial. Then it says educational, this district also typically has shallow depths to bedrock. So we're thinking that that has nothing to do with education.
Yeah,
That
just,
Probably jumped out of some other place and inserted itself in the table.
just write school. Eliminate that and just write school.
Well,
Because the school is not in the floodplain. Or in the flood hazard area.
Yeah, that I don't, that educational doesn't make sense.
Nor do we know about the shallow depths of bedrock. I mean, it's just something that,
It's an
got pulled
oddball
from
Should
something.
be in there
Yeah.
because it's-
because.
Well,
it's
why
not-
wouldn't they have it more by mobile home or something else like that?
So now if you eliminate. it, so
Yeah.
what we're saying-
Just put school and 0, wouldn't be anything next to it, yeah.
Right.
All right.
Under mobile home, it says 2. I don't know where, but somewhere else in this document, I thought I saw 3.
That are in the floodplain. This is saying that there's 2 in the map flood hazard areas.
Okay. Not sure where I saw that.
Or if you see it, fold over your page so that you can show me where it is.
this is page 55 incidentally.
I mean, you want to, well,
Run,
moving on.
what page you on? It's flipping
56.
so much.
Conflicting activities, forest protection.
Ooh. Hate this one.
Yeah, I got the old one.
Yeah, I didn't.
I've been
Ran
going
out
back
the
and
house.
forth. to Find the page numbers and then.
I just started at the beginning and labeled them all.
I thought I gave you guys homework to do that. Remember your,
I did that last time, last time, 'cause
but everybody has to do it and start on the same page at the same number.
I started at the cover page as 1 and just worked my way. Right?
Yeah, but I wanna help Bob since his printer skipped the page.
On the bullet on the top of the page, consider incentive slash flexibility zoning to allow for higher density clustered housing. And I don't need to open a can of worms, but I was thinking about this the other day, and that is, historically not been what Tinmouth has done. I mean, there's been, I mean, other than the cluster housing around, say, Tinmouth Pond. The vast majority of development seems to be in, you know, larger tracts of land that are. I mean, that, and that's how Tinmouth has developed, you know, it has, the incentive to cluster, because there's no structure, there's no infrastructure. There was no mill or like that went away a long time ago. So how people have settled the town in the last 50 years has been buying, and I don't want to say large or small, but like lot sizes that are typically larger than 5 acres, I want to say. And developed properties that way, you know, and I think that as a board, we need to be looking at that as that is the predominant mode that development occurs in town. Whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, like Tinmouth really hasn't lent itself to clustered housing.
No, well,
But
I
we
don't-
tried it 3 times.
And just
Didn't
in,
work.
you know, like, yeah, we've tried it 3 times with varying degrees of.
so I think
Success.
the reason why it doesn't work is you need the jobs before you have cluster housing. Most of the housing you see in the city and suburban areas were because of a factory that had a large employment, and then the people would need housing.
Yeah.
And you don't have that here.
We don't, and that's like
The only thing that might change is if more people work from home. Like I worked from home for 6 years. And I was living here, but I was working I was still doing my job in the city.
Yeah.
So I mean, that would be a way to do
But-
more housing. But I think one of the things I remember when we were looking for land, we wanted more than 10 acres because you didn't need a perk test. And that's one of the reasons why you bought more land. I mean, and now with 5 acres, you still have to have a perk test and
I'm thinking of the new development that's gonna go in on
on,
Valentine's.
right.
You know, those are gonna be larger tracts of land.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and that is the prevailing,
That's what the market wants.
yeah, that's what the market wants, and that's what,
Devin Neary, Regional Planning Commission, was talking to the select board a little while ago. He was talking about the housing study that had just been done. And they said Rutland County didn't have this shortage of low-income housing, but it had a shortage of the moderate to higher income housing, because the people that you want to come, the engineers and the doctors, they all want, better housing, and that's what the shortage is right now.
so I think that's just like going down the road. I think that, you know, we as a board need to be just cognizant of, you know, it's not clustered housing, it's not necessarily, you know, it's middle income, higher income housing developments that are going to be predominantly, that's what we're gonna be dealing with in the future.
And I thought we had something in here encouraging property owners to build closer to the woods instead of in the middle of the
Yeah.
field to help
Right, there was
encourage
that.
that.
That was a
agricultural-
couple
The
of
edge of
pages
the-
back.
To build on the edges, so you're not
And the zoning has.
Yeah, it's right here.
Agricultural district.
And maybe
If
a shared
anybody wants to
driveway.
visit in-
allow high
they have to go
density.
to the board of adjustment.
There was something about on the edge and
Because it's supposed to be built on the edge.
And I mean, just from a personal standpoint, say Andy owned the property next to me and we bought property close to each other. I don't necessarily know that I'd want my house 20 feet from his, kind of like a little separation.
There's, I
That's
mean,
why people moved to Tinmouth,
Mhm.
when they were working on the not pumpkin, no,
October Hill.
October Hill.
October Hill thing. There was people that came to the planning commission and said, you know, people move out to Tinmouth and they want 5 acres because they want some elbow room. They don't
Mhm.
want to be on 1/4 acre parcels. Well, there's one house down there, and now it's on 5 acres.
Yep.
Gone its
That's
way.
one of the
Gone
reasons.
its
I mean,
way.
there was a number of reasons why that thing didn't work, but. You know, that was a comment 20 years ago when it
I
was.
think that's the bigger fraction.
So Michael, are you thinking we should strike this bullet, this sentence?
No, I don't necessarily think that we need to strike it. I was thinking about this earlier in the week. I was thinking about like development and how the town is developing and what, you know, what that looks like. And it is not the model that we were thinking about when this was being written. And I don't think I don't think, you know, higher density housing clusters are gonna be the model, at least the model for this area in the coming future. I don't see that happening.
Well, when we tried October Hill, it didn't work. One of the reasons we had the housing market collapse, but the other reason we came about was that when we had somebody potentially looking to buy it, the cost of commuting from here, that's why it's gonna be for more higher income housing, because the only people that could afford it are people who
Yeah.
are either retired or
Yeah.
or have jobs where they pay enough, or make enough money to support, to commute and to stay here.
No, I could actually see, you piqued my interest. I could actually see a senior housing development that no, I'm absolutely serious. A senior housing development, because typically those would be people that would be able to afford, you know, I'm not talking about golf course, but something, you know, in between golf course and people wanting to have their space and this and that.
They
'cause it's a-
often go to Florida where it's warmer for the winter.
Possibly, but I'm just saying, like, the cost of building is going
Right.
to, you know, they're going to put a lot of clustered housing is going to stay primarily in Rutland because that's where all of the infrastructure is. Like,
Right.
we
That's-
do not
that's-
have that.
I was about to mention Rutland when this cluster word came up. It sounds like something, sounds like a Rutland Regional Planning Commission got a hold of our paper and slipped a line in there, is what it sounds like to me.
I mean, we
Yes.
could actually say, consider incentive flexible zoning to allow housing development to preserve farmland and undeveloped land.
Yeah,
Sure.
And again,
Consider incentive flexible zoning to allow for housing developments to preserve farmland and undeveloped land.
take out higher density
Yeah,
clusters.
because I just don't think that Tinmouth is gonna go that, you know, we've seen that Tinmouth doesn't go that route. Not to say that it couldn't, but I think it's a lot of heavy lifting for, I think it's just a lot of heavy lifting that they'll just find somebody. The other interesting thing, that the guy was talking about from the Regional Commission was, there's a lot of projects in the works, but there's no contractors to that want to step up and do these large multi-unit projects. I mean, everyone is just flat out and
Wow.
no one is interested in. Which I thought was kind of interesting, but
I always, thing I always dwell on is, if you want development, you need jobs. You know, I mean, if let's say, Google decided to put, some kind of a place in Vermont or in this area, you would see cluster housing, you would see things like that.
Amazon Prime is opening up a store, I think, in New York, not too far, in Granville, right?
It's,
Right. And jobs like
the
that,
furniture place over there. That's
Yeah.
a
A
huge
telescope?
building, and they added on. Huge.
But I know, I was talking to someone today whose husband he's gonna start, commuting over there. So,
yeah, that's what,
Yeah,
that's one of the
absolutely.
things, when we had the years ago, when I was just commuting up here, and the first development came around where behind where Kevin Allen lives, or those houses they built back there. And I said, the interest rates are, the housing, if you need jobs to get people there, and I said, that's what was missing, and it's still the thing that's missing here.
Yep.
And if you want really, to have development, you need jobs, and you won't. Otherwise, it's just, you gotta get people who have the income to live in a place like this.
Well, that and as a whole, we have a high cost of living, so that's not very attractive
No.
to a lot of out-of-staters.
Yeah.
There's no gas station, there's no food or like grocery stores. You have to go to at least Wallingford for that.
That's what, when I was telling people how far I used to travel to get groceries when I were up here, and they say, what are you, crazy? You know, 'cause you got, I said, but I don't have any traffic lights. I don't wanna- I said, I said, it's fast and easy drive. I said, people in the city, when my wife went to visit relatives in Long Island, and she said, well, why don't we go to, Staples? She said, it'll take an hour, but she says, it's like a half mile away. It's just crazy, but
That's true.
it's, you have one or the other, but you can't have both, but it's, I think, when it comes to development, I think if you want development, you have to have jobs, and that's, you study historically, every place that had development, and you look at Proctor, you study the Vermont Marble
Yeah.
Company,
Yeah.
and I was very amazed when, I looked at that video that they did about Vermont Marble, and I read about it, I said, that supported Rutland.
Yeah.
The jobs,
Yep.
it was amazing. I never realized how large a corporation it was. That was the IBM of the early 19th century or late 19th century.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And really
we
well.
have the history here that you could see you're not gonna get housing unless you have jobs. And I think that's why when I hear these guys on TV saying, oh, we have a housing shortage, well, why don't you guys create some jobs here? And you won't have a housing shortage. We'll put
And-
transportation in.
And the cost stuff, you gotta be a decent job too,
Yeah,
Cause it did say telescope and what's that say? That's the other manufacturing thing, and just where you get in Granville. The hell, all the PCB business troubles down in Bennington. And Gulf, but they're pretty large too.
You can ask me anything you want about Timoth and inside its borders, outside, don't know a whole lot.
All right, so we're good with forest protection?
Yeah, we're been to New York.
Everybody. Ah,
We'll have to fix the golf roads if we
Yeah,
can get
there
over
you go.
there. Go to work.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Well, when a lot of people work in telescope, the roads kept in a lot better condition.
But they already said they have lost some people that were going to that place.
Yeah.
Or they've got, raised the people.
We to the next page, prevention of strip development.
Accessibility of properties. We came up with an interesting scenario today.
We did.
We did,
We did?
yeah. Remember this morning, we're talking about ag overlays and houses going in certain districts, but roads. We don't have anything in our zoning about, where roads go or driveways through other zones.
I have to look in what Michael is talking about is Kevin Brown wants to put a house in the southern field of Bill Valentine's. And he came to the select board to get a driveway permit. And originally the driveway was gonna go up along the tree line. And then at the select board meeting, Eric said, no, he wants to put it down farther. Well, when he puts it down farther, that means he's gonna be going through the ag district. If you're gonna build in the ag district, you're gonna put a house in there, you have to go to the Board of Adjustment. Do we consider a driveway development so that that driveway would have to go to the Board of Adjustment as well?
Should be development.
You'd
And
say
then
that
Rod
that's
Stark was
development?
here,
Should
and he
be.
said you can't put the driveway next to the tree line there because so much water comes down there. It jumps over the stone wall and gets into his cellar. He's got 2 sump pumps in his cellar with the amount of water that's coming down through there. But the question that Michael and I were thinking about was, if it's in the ag zone, what is development? Does the driveway? I think we have to do a little research on that.
I think he wants to go up.
Last I heard, he
Road,
wanted to
yeah.
go up along the south side.
Yeah.
All the way up along and go along the top. That's what he told us he was doing. We
Yeah.
want him to go up the old lane, but he doesn't wanna do that.
Up through
In the middle,
lane
yeah,
itself.
that might make
Use
more
it.
sense. For him to get up there
But-
that way.
That
But it gets wet in there, I do know that.
Well, a
Yeah.
stream comes down and then it disappears right in that second field,
Yeah,
right there. That comes out about a third of the way down in that lane.
Yep.
Onto it, and a smooth ledge right there. But I don't know. Well, that could be taken care of, I guess. It always goes down through, it doesn't seem to go anywhere after. That wet spot in that little salad bowl, but.
yeah, it goes
That's where it
towards the
comes out.
culvert from the road.
Yeah. That's where it comes out. Jump back out of there. But I think that could. Been pushed in or something, or,
I think it would be cheaper to try to do something there than make a whole new road, but.
Yeah.
It's his
Um,
land.
yeah. What are we talking
Well, it
about?
depends on how
That
far
one,
he's
yeah.
going too. Is he gonna do a nice dense graded and aggregate surface course on top, or just
I don't know,
throw some gravel
Well,
down and call it good?
he told us he's putting the house in the northwest corner, so.
And then Nick's is Nick's supposed to do the second house. They're taught before. That's all he was gonna do on that side.
Yeah, what's Scott or yeah, Travis, I thought was his name. He's doing,
I can't remember. So,
he's
Yeah.
doing the house in the middle field on the northwest corner.
Yeah.
At least that's what we were told,
Yeah.
so.
They're still trying
They're
to figure it out,
yeah.
but you
Yeah.
know, in the meantime.
Anyway,
keep
that's-
farming.
I mean, the Coastal Road is, which is the easiest way of getting up there, but it always follows the contour. And
We
that would
keep
ruin
getting
that
told
field.
different things, so we said the hell that we're just planting rye everywhere and they'll just dig up whatever they dig up. Rye's cheap.
All right, so anyway, that's,
Well, when you,
But that is a point, I think.
about,
Well, I mean,
whether,
Yeah.
Sandy's point, I think that road up the lane would be a great way, because I don't think it's not that
But we-
deep to go then.
don't we have something in there about where we, about putting housing on the edges between forest and farmland, so it doesn't disturb agriculture, and then you're gonna run a road right through it.
well, I mean, that is,
So I think we have to, I've got to see. what the zoning-
Yeah,
I think
and,
that's-
and you have, in a prevention of strip development, that also touches on secondary roads and, what we were talking about driveways, and, because if you look at what they did along East Road, they made a bunch of spaghetti strips. And, that's what you want to prevent, but you have to look at it like, say, well, are we gonna allow driveways to prevent that? Are we gonna allow right of ways to prevent that through ag land? You know what I'm saying? Is what, if we had something like that in place, maybe those spaghetti strips wouldn't happen.
Well, those spaghetti strips happened in 1988, and we got subdivision regulations within a year after that.
Right,
So now they can't be 200 feet wide, they have to be at least 400 feet wide. And in the case of when Scott Lepley developed Pumpkin Mill over there,
Yeah.
they have 9 lots, and they have one access to the East Road, which is on by Carolyn Bergen's.
right.
That's where they're all supposed to go out. So that was the planning commission saying, no, you're not gonna get 9 access points to the East Road, you get 1.
Right.
And as it turns out, they're using the one on the south, and I had to remind them that the permit says you all have to go this way. And the ones on the way in are not too happy about that right now.
Well, that's the
But
thing that,
that's how the planning commission dealt with that.
right,
Those spaghetti lots got us to have subdivision regulations, and we said instead of having 200-foot lots, you have to have at least 400.
well, do we want to make any kind of changes on the prevention of strip development, reword that, or we go over that to make that clearer?
I think the zoning regulations might, the plan is usually kind of vague. And then the zoning regulations are how you enforce what you want the plan to do.
Okay.
But you could put stronger language in it, but the enforcement takes place with the zoning as opposed to the same thing.
something that you about a little later on. All right,
Under-
so,
Under forest protection policies, the first sentence, I think there should be a comma next to town before supplemented. There's another comma further on.
Tell us where you are, Pat.
Or again,
Using the maps created by the town, comma, supplemented by state forest.
Tell me where you are.
You're-
I can't find it.
This on forest protection, is that what you're
You
saying?
said it's on forest protection.
Okay. And where is it from there?
Right,
Where is it?
forest protection, yeah,
Then go where?
the first sentence,
Development pressures?
the first. No, the first sentence, using the maps created by the town, comma, supplemented by state forest block data as a guide.
Keep
Oh,
down
forest
on forest
protection
protection policies,
You gotta tell us.
Not
it's-
finding this.
using the maps created by the town supplemented by state forest block data as a guide.
Oh,
Right,
So what do you
I
want
think
to have there?
between
found
town
it
and
very-
supplemented,
Using the
Okay.
maps,
The
between
comma.
town and supplemented, I think there should be a,
Okay,
yeah, you know, that's my specialty.
I know, you're the comma girl.
I think the comma went out to lunch.
all right. Anything else, Pat?
No, I think that's all I got.
That's good. Good job.
All right, on to subsurface sewage disposal. Don't do it. So why do we have the end note all in yellow?
What?
Because those end notes probably have to be
Change the numbers?
changed to match
I
the
don't
page.
have
they're
it.
on.
I don't have
Okay.
it. I don't have
I
it.
don't.
I'll have it. No,
That's
It's
because
an
I'm the
end note
chair.
change.
mine ends at subsurface.
Yeah, mine ends with subsurface sewer disposal.
All right. Okay, well, then,
Mine has all the appendix A, Timoth Historical District and.
yeah, I have that.
Significant features and Ed's question was, do we want to keep all that in there?
Yes. Yes, we do. Because those are all, those are important, those are key to having those, like, those are, we put those in there so we can have them as a reference to any, we have, that's our reference source of, hey, there are some very historical or, ecologically sensitive areas
Yeah.
that
Even
they're
though they-
here in this document and we want to keep them there.
I'll look at them.
Do we have to change anything about that state now has regulations about the subsurface sewer disposal?
I think it says it in the bottom, doesn't it? The Agency of Natural Use
Oh,
has
that's
universal jurisdiction over sewage and
Okay.
wastewater and water
State
supplies.
wastewater division.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I think so.
All right, so other than that, I think we have the maps.
I think
This is where, Ed.
Oh, right.
Took out the, section on commercial energy generation and transmission facilities, citing. That goes on and on, page.
I
I don't think mine up.
Existing, and it goes on.
got I got another copy in here.
So we're looking at the map that says local constraints on commercial renewable energy production. Is that correct, Bob?
We should look at that sometime, that's an existing plan, it isn't in Ed's.
Need a copy? There's another. one.
You
That's
left
a whole
all that
I
out.
have it all.
You left out a whole bunch of maps.
I think what I need to do is get everybody a copy of the energy section that got added on in 2020, so that we're all on.
I got energy in here.
Right,
Yeah, it's.
so not everybody,
This is
Yeah.
all that.
not everybody has a thing right.
Start with page 59, I think.
The thing is, there may be some new maps from the state. There are several maps here that were provided by the state. On the hydro energy potential and the wind energy potential
No.
and the solar energy potential and the biomass energy potential. Those are all in our existing plan.
59 starts the energy section, commercial energy generation facility.
The maps I made on the local constraints and so are later on.
Who are these, some of the notes?
As hydro energy potential.
So, Michael, you said several meetings ago, quite a few meetings ago, that you thought that the energy section needed some a hard look, and maybe with the idea of making it shorter. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was, I think that, I think maybe this board or maybe even the state needs to start having,
Oh, yeah.
a broader conversation about, the state pushed and has pushed very
Yeah.
hard the idea of alternative, forms of
This was linked to the-
electricity.
because
You know,
when they were talking
typically
about
solar, solar
why
power.
isn't GMP building
And, it's coming to my attention that, we're as a society, we probably should really be taking a closer look at nuclear.
Several
And
people
I think
are talking
that's a-
once here.
He took away, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go here.
In most states, they took away the right for a electric company to build or own a power plant, except in Vermont. Yet GMP doesn't do that, and we end up paying higher rates for solar energy that that's a developer puts in. And that's what, these were questions I had written to yell at somebody.
So, Michael, getting back to the
Own hydro.
Yeah.
the regional commission has a new staff member whose job is to deal with energy projects. And it seems to me that maybe we need to, might be useful to ask that guy to read through our energy section.
Planning guy, the things that came up that I.
We could ask him to read through our energy section. I was just thinking and a broader stroke kind of, broader strokes thinking about energy and what it means for, Vermont to, do we really want to go into, and we're pretty heavy into solar panel mode where there are better, efficient, much more efficient ways of generating electricity, i.e., nuclear, that, maybe we need to start nudging the state to say, because there are advantages and disadvantages of, all forms of energy production. And I think in this, the next coming century, nuclear is going to be playing a significant role. And we have, there is a lot of infrastructure, from Vermont Yankee that is existing. And I'm curious to see what because, solar is not going to revolutionize when I say the state's electrical needs. It's not going to do it, and so then it's either going to be, there's going to have to be something else, whether we're just buying more from Hydro-Quebec or, what are we looking at when we're talking about, energy needs. And I think that's a conversation that, we need to start having. We need to start pushing the people that are making policies to start, thinking about other, avenues for electrical generation.
Well, how come they don't talk about more energy conserving appliances
And this is something that we could put in the plan, we could be.
Hybrid vehicles instead of full electric.
But this is the place where we can put in, we can raise questions, we can promote things, that we believe the town would be in favor of. I am in absolute favor of, hybrid cars. I think gas, electric cars
it makes more sense.
it makes so much more sense. Instead of pushing, electric, it's like around here, and that might be fine for a different part of the country, but around here, like gas, electric hybrids, really, mom has one, it's.
You can drive a lot further.
Yeah.
And you don't have,
You can be
it's.
warm in the winter. if you want to be.
And cool in the summer.
Yeah,
Because you're not supposed
there's
to run
there's
AC
a question too, when people got stuck in traffic, there was a big uh, crash in the highway years, just last winter, I think, and people with battery powered cars, after a while.
Yeah.
They would, heat, and you can't do that. You have to consider alternatives, and I think, a hybrid makes more sense, but we're always pushed into, that's the way things are in this country. It's, all or none, everybody's gotta have a battery car, but they don't, the batteries aren't really that dependable either, or that, they still have a lot
Couldn't
to
track our health.
divide. They gotta make a better battery
Yeah,
before I think it'll be practical.
And the
But I
batteries
think-
They're expensive. If you have to replace them, they're
Well,
stupidly expensive.
the idea, I think, is that they don't want anybody to own a vehicle, they want you to lease it.
Yep.
And and that's the way the prices of, I went and looked at a Ford deal, who could afford a truck? They want $60,000-$70,000 for a Ford F-150.
but it's an easy $400 payment, so you
Yeah.
can make the $400 payment and not own nothing and you'll be happy.
Right.
We
Yeah,
can
right.
get more for our F-250 than what we paid for it right now.
Yeah.
And it's almost 10 years old. It's like, what the hell?
So anyway, back to nuclear energy. I really think the state needs to be looking at modern nuclear power plants, because they're not the power plants of the 60s and 70s.
Well, they're using different cooling, they're cooling with sodium, not water.
And you
And
know,
that's supposed to be a game changer, and they were talking about, there was an article on the internet about all the coal-fired and closed-down coal-fired plants being churned into nuclear plants. And that's what supposedly somebody is contemplating doing.
yeah. Anyway, that's my tangent on, sorry.
Can they take the nuclear plants that have been closed down and reopen them?
Well, we're gonna reopen them as nuclear power plants.
No, I'm saying that the nuclear
mean?
plants that were closed down,
No, because
they can't reopen them and cool them a new way.
they have it's a huge amount. I mean, they're the new power plants take about 10 years to build. So it's one of those long-term like build, but their efficiency is so much greater, and they're like,
Well, I was just asking, they can't take like Yankee Power and convert that to a newer one. They have to build a new one.
I think you'd have to build
You
a
have
new
to
one.
go from the
But
bottom up.
but you could probably build one closer
site.
to, I mean, they have all of that infrastructure there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's aging, I mean, it's just, I do think that, the state is going to have to start, I mean, any society is going to be having to look at nuclear again within the next, 10, 15 years, because we've seen what solar does, we've seen what wind does, and it does something, but it doesn't necessarily meet the demands of, modern society today.
And even I would say our hydroelectric plants aren't gonna be able to keep up with the demand that they're pushing on us for going all electric everywhere.
Yeah. Anyway, that's,
I think the focus, I think what happens is when you talk about hybrid cars and you talk about battery cars, I think the focus goes back to the climate change discussion. I think that's why they're going all battery instead of a hybrid. But you can't really, I think you have to look at it environmentally, I mean, for the people like here, it makes more sense to have a hybrid rather than a battery.
But even then, the electric grid cannot handle everybody going full electric.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it can't
The
do it.
electric grid is one of the problems that they talk about, with handling all the solar panels even. When we had discussions about, putting more solar in, like in Timoth, we don't have the wire, that we don't have the grid to handle it, and a lot of that solar energy gets wasted because the grid can't handle it. They haven't updated the grid. It's like, putting an 800 horsepower motor in a Volkswagen and say, well, now I don't have, it's too much, it can't handle it, and that's what's the problem is with the grid. It's like putting a cart before the horse. They have to rebuild the grid to make it better. And then you can add in all these solar and wind things, because wasn't there a story about that a lot of the wind and solar they were generating in Vermont wasn't being used because the grid couldn't handle it in Vermont?
They can't build
Mm,
anymore up
see,
north. in
Right.
Northeast Kingdom because they don't have the.
Right, and that's why I'm saying is that
Good point.
it's kind of ridiculous, like when we were complaining about the fuel prices being higher, and Biden was telling the Arabs to produce more oil. And they said, well, why should we produce more oil? You don't have enough refineries to refine it. So I mean, there's a lot of questions there that we as consumers and as citizens don't get the right
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard to, you know, we could use our own judgment, but really, we're really not getting, you know, the right answers all the time.
Everything's
We're not
driven-
getting the truth.
By politics.
Yeah.
Everything's driven by politics. I don't care what your party is.
Mm.
Everything is driven politically
Right.
anymore.
So.
Right.
Yes,
So, Mr. Chair,
yeah,
if I may. Moving on the agenda for the next meeting.
that's,
Would
I
you
was,
guys like to have, see if I could get the energy guide? Or you just want to leave it up to me to see which. Flood resilience or river or energy, whoever can come to the November meeting, one or the other.
I would entertain either one. One or the other. How about you got the flood resilience person, or if we can get someone from the planning, the regional commission to come and talk about what direction we would want to go, or thinks that we should go for our energy policy. Either one, if we can get one of them.
See
Yeah.
what one wants to do November and what one wants to do December. Or do we
Okay.
have stuff going on in November and December? That we know of?
No, it's just work on a plan and both of those are things that we need to do for the.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do those, we'll put those as on
Yeah.
our agendas for, November and
Yeah,
December.
I'm just interested in the erosion thing, you know. Cause I just I've never seen anything like that in Plymouth, where they had, there was something I think that Grant had brought up on the west side in Timoth, there's supposedly an area, by the what is that, the road that cuts up through the
Gulf Road.
Gulf Road, there's supposedly some kind of was a landslide up
Yeah,
there.
yeah. That was on Tom Peters, who owns
It was called the Freshette. And it was, it happened 200 years ago. But the whole side of the mountain just went someplace over there.
because they clear cut, right?
I don't know, I remember
No,
Grant
it was a
talking
big
about
storm.
that, and,
It was a big storm.
Yeah.
But it just hit right there. Because the story that I think I read it in Middletown Historical Society is the people in Middletown were haying. And they looked down south and they could see this big black storm cloud there. It never made it to where they were haying, but down there, some relative was haying and, the freshet happened and the whole side of the mountain just went.
probably one of those micro bursts hit it.
But it was, it was
Yeah.
150,
Impressive.
175 years ago. I'll see if I can find the info about it.
Quite a while ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Decades and centuries.
So does that sound like a plan, everyone?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay,
Sure.
all right. With that, I'm gonna close off the meeting if,
So everybody's available on the 16th of November.
I believe so.
Is there in the past, occasionally there's been a conflict with the game stopper in November?
Well, that has been because some of the members of the planning commission had to go cut meat, but I don't know if any of you are gonna run over there and cut meat, so.
Okay,
As long as they're not making those meatballs again.
do you like the meatballs?
I was making them one year. I said, I'm just glad nobody from the health department came in.
Allegedly. All right, everyone, I'll say we're done for the night unless anyone has
You got the date?
the 16th.
Maybe.
16th.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You all.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
right, good night.
guys.
I'm hungry.
Okay.
And I'm tired. Got a long 2 weeks.
Me too. I gotta-
Court,
We're
Kelly.
calling.
Holding up a thing that said solar project, I do Rutland Town.
Another one.
Yay.
Let them have it.
Past couple
You have a
years.
comment on that?
The only thing, one thing I never understand is why they don't push solar on to commercial buildings, like on rooftops. You see so many empty rooftops in Rutland where there's no trees and nothing there. Well, I said, well, why, one time I was talking with Kathy Reynolds, and I said, well, why don't Green Mountain Power go into the Rutland Mall and fill it up with Tesla batteries and put solar panels all over the parking lot or in the roof? I said, you'd have the whole power plant right there, and it's just property going to waste.
So
And
Kim,
nobody,
is
and she
that
said,
the
well,
Rutland
who's gonna
Herald
pay
you were
for it?
showing me?
Green Mountain
Yeah.
Power doesn't want to pay for it.
This is from the
fixed.
Times,
The time.
the Times, yes. No,
The New
it's
York Times.
Rutland Herald,
What's that?
from the Rutland Herald,
Rutland
it's,
Herald. Okay.
July 8th and 9th.
Oh, for the past.
Yes, but it's saying the same thing you're saying, is that you have to have that town plan
Yeah.
because all your zoning is moot. I mean, it's worthless. If you don't have the advanced energy part of your plan,
Yeah,
then you have nothing. You don't even have party status.
yeah. Okay. Well, that was a strenuous meeting.
Yeah. You're looking better.
I'm feeling a little bit better.
Good.
My